We are just hours away from WrestleMania 32. What's up, everyone? GoodMicWork back at you, as promised, with a really quick Hall of Fame reaction. I just wanted to come up and give you something as it regards to the Hall of Fame, because this is WrestleMania season, and it's a lot of fun, and I want to try to be up here to react to everything. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to be home to see the show live, as I was also not able to be home to see NXT Dallas live last night, so I had to catch the show late and react to it on Twitter very late. And here we are now, 2 o'clock in the morning on WrestleMania Sunday, and I'm just now getting up a reaction to this show. I gotta say, this was one of the most entertaining Hall of Fames I have ever seen. On paper, it was very, very good class, but I don't know if it would really... I wouldn't call it one of the best they've ever had, but still solid. So, you know, on paper, I felt like maybe it was a tiny bit weak, but boy, did they make up for that in the entertainment factor. There was some legendary things taking place and some great speeches and some great moments from this Hall of Fame. I found myself enjoying myself throughout pretty much the whole show. I watched almost all of it. I skipped and fast-forwarded through very little of it. I like when Jerry Lawler always says it's his favorite night of the year. It might be mine as well, because I really enjoy, you know, a lot of these speeches, because I remember I grew up to a lot of these legends that get inducted into the Hall of Fame, and tonight I was really excited to see guys like the Freebirds and Stan Hansen. Those were some of the speeches and the inductions I was looking the most forward to. I had no idea it was going to be as entertaining as it was. Just to start skimming through a little bit of what we saw, Godfather was the first one to be inducted. He was inducted by JBL and Ron Simmons, the APA. They were pretty funny. I love Bradshaw and Ron Simmons' chemistry. Those guys are lifelong friends, as they are with Charles Wright, who they inducted as the Godfather. Didn't mention anything about Papa Shango or anything else he did. It was all about the Godfather character and gimmick and all that. Pretty funny and pretty entertaining. I've always been a big fan of Charles Wright. I always thought he was a pretty cool, laid-back, chill, well-spoken individual. I've always had a lot of respect for him, and he's always been known as one of the nicest guys in the business. So much deserved and much earned Hall of Fame induction. They had Vader induct Stan Hansen, which I was kind of hoping it would be Vader. It was good to see him. The big guy looked great. I even tweeted about how good he looked, and Vader retweeted me earlier on tonight. But I was really looking forward to this particular induction because I'm a huge Stan Hansen fan, always have been. I mean, I remember him from the 80s. One of the eeriest things on the whole Hall of Fame when they were showing the Stan Hansen, I think, video package before they inducted him, and Paul Heyman said something that almost knocked me to the floor, because I've had the exact same thought in my head. He was like, when I was a kid, I wasn't scared of the Boogeyman or fucking Freddy or Jason. I was scared of Stan Hansen, and I was always terrified of him as a young person as well. He was mean and nasty and scary, and I remember as a little kid being frightened that people like this exist out there in that world. And I've always just been a huge fan of his career, so I was really excited to see him go into the WWE Hall of Fame, and his speech was great. I loved all of his shout-outs, the way he talked about his career, all the people that helped him along the way, the friends that he made, the matches he had, the tag team partners and opponents that he had. Shout-outs ranged from everywhere from Antonio Inoki and Giant Baba to Rick Martel. It was a great speech, and I was thinking to myself that was as good as it was going to get, and boy, did that not even come close. Jacqueline was up next. I loved seeing her go in, of course. Miss Texas, who got her start right there in Dallas. The Dudley Boys inducted her. They go way back with her. They're close friends of hers, and they did a really good job. Bubba is so articulate. I love listening to him speak. He's brilliant. And how about the line? That might be the quote of the night, when Devon started talking, and Bubba's like, no. You're just supposed to stand there and say, testify. That was fucking great. The crowd popped for that, too. Jacqueline's speech was really good. It was cool to see all of her family there. She shouted out all the ladies from that time period, the Trishas, the Litas, Molly Hollies, Sable, Victoria, Terry Runnels, everybody. Her speech was really nothing I guess you would call exciting, but it was definitely something that put a smile on my face. So congrats to Jacqueline. And oh man, the induction of the night easily has got to go to the fabulous Freebirds. I had no idea that I was going to enjoy this as much as I did. The New Day, of course, inducted them because they're the current modern-day three-man team, and they're WWE Tag Team Champions, and they're super over right now, so I guess they were a fitting and fun choice to induct the fabulous Freebirds, so I had really no problem with that because I knew they were going to be entertaining, and they were. They had a good time out there, they mixed in just the right amount of comedy, and then when they announced them to come out, I mean, can you believe that entrance? They blasted Leonard Skinner over the loudspeakers, and out came the two surviving members of the Freebirds, Hayes and Jimmy Garvin, and they danced their fucking asses off. That was incredible. I mean, they just went on and on and on to where they were completely out of breath. Jimmy could barely talk when they first started the speech, and then the speech went on forever, but a good forever. I watched every single minute and loved every second of it. It was long as shit. It had different phases. They brought out several special guests. I mean, it was amazing, the stories they told. I mean, Michael Hayes, I've always said, he's never been one of my favorite people because I've just never heard too many flattering stories about the guy. I've heard that he's brilliant and great at his job, and he's definitely responsible for a lot of the success during the Attitude Era and, over the last 20 years of the WWE. He's been there since 95, I think, so it's been like 21 years since he's been employed there. So the guy's great at what he does, and he's a brilliant wrestling mind. However, he's just kind of a fuck-up. He's always had problems and shit, and he's done embarrassing things. And, there's always the talk of him being a racist, too. It's like the same thing with Hulk Hogan. I've never really considered Michael Hayes a racist. I just consider him, inappropriate at times. Sometimes I think he just shoots off at the mouth, and he doesn't think before he speaks. And it's like with Hogan. I don't know why he says shit like that or uses language the way he does. It makes no sense, but at the end of the day, I don't really truly feel like he hates African Americans. And Michael Hayes is the same way. He has a long history with a lot of African-American wrestlers who he's teamed with, who he's feuded against over the years. There's no reason to think this guy would have a racist bone in his body, but those accusations have come up in the past about the guy. On top of that, he's had problems with alcohol and drugs and all of that and been in trouble with the WWE a few times, and I cannot believe he brought up the story of almost peeing on Linda McMahon, which I think was the plane ride from hell. I've heard the story a couple of times. I always thought maybe it was a myth. I think X-Pac was one of the first people I heard say it in a shoot interview, saying, oh yeah, he was so wasted that he was trying to take a piss. He thought he was in the bathroom, but he was standing in front of Linda McMahon and trying to pull his pants down to take a piss on her. The fact that Michael Hayes owned up to that and mentioned it in his Hall of Fame speech, oh my God, my jaw dropped. I spit out the beer that I was drinking. And that's where I will commend Michael Hayes, because for all of his problems, he's always owned up to it. And he had a plethora of shout-outs tonight, all the people that helped him along the way, but specifically mentioned the McMahons, how they gave him chance after chance because they knew he was valuable to the company, and they felt like if they could get his ass straight and clean, he's a big asset to the WWE. So they really helped him out and helped him get his life on track. He seems to be doing well now. I even watched his interview, Legends with JBL, on the WWE Network a couple of days ago, and I was happy with what I saw and with what I heard from Michael Hayes. And the Freebirds induction going into the Hall of Fame is long overdue. I'm glad they waited, though, because this was a legendary induction speech, plus it took place in Dallas. No better city for the Freebirds to go in than in Dallas. They even brought out the sons of Terry Gordy and Buddy Roberts and let both of them speak. They brought out Kevin Von Erich, the surviving member of the Von Erich family, who, of course, were printing money in their feud with the Freebirds back in the day. I really enjoyed what he had to say. Sometimes I feel like these wrestlers get caught up in the moment and they start thinking it's about them. I almost felt like, as much as I liked everything Kevin Von Erich said, except for the new gay part. Did he really say that? I think he did. He said, these new gay guys. So I don't know what the hell is on his mind. That was pretty funny, but still a very emotional and heartfelt speech by Kevin Von Erich, but I felt like he was kind of getting lost there. And I was like, all right, don't forget this is about the Freebirds, not about you. Ric Flair kind of had the same problem later on when he was talking to Sting, the way he fumbled up his announcement of Sting coming out. But I loved the incredible overall ride that the Freebirds induction speech was. I mean, WWE gave them so much time. How much time did it go? I tried to I tried to skip or rewind something, and you know how it is on the WWE Network. It's really hard. It's my one big critique of the network is that it's really impossible to fast forward or maybe skip ahead just a little bit without completely, fucking it up. And then you can hit the little, forward 10 seconds button, but if you hit that too many times, it might fuck your browser up. But it's really hard to just move ahead a little bit. It's a lot easier on YouTube, actually, to do something like that. So every time you try to move ahead a little bit, you kind of lose track of where you were. So I don't know how long the thing actually lasted, but it felt at least like it was a half an hour. Probably longer than that, but I love the whole thing. I love the whole damn thing. And then at the end, the cherry on top, as if it couldn't get any better, Michael Hayes, they sing and perform. Bad Street USA, Michael goes through the crowd. You saw everybody, Iron Sheik, Bob Backlund, Scott Hall, X-Pac, Bruno Sammartino looked scared shitless out there when that was going on. Pretty funny. So all of the camera shots of the talent was really entertaining tonight. There's a lot of pictures online, too, of the Big Show vaping his ass off. I'm assuming that's tobacco in there. I could be wrong. I have 3 different vape pens, and there is definitely not tobacco in mine, and they come in really handy for events just like that. I've even taken them to Vegas a couple of times, so I just wonder what's in there with Big Show and if it was maybe a gift from Snoop. WWE also did this legacy induction where they cut to a video package and basically just grandfathered in a bunch of legendary names, maybe without going through the entire ordeal of having a family member come in and them dedicating a whole segment to it. I inducted a lot of old-timers out there: George Hackenschmidt, Frank Gotch, Mildred Burke, Ed Strangler Lewis, Sailor Art Thomas, Luthez, and Pat O'Connor. I think Luthez, you can make a case for him to go in on his own in a normal way because he's one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. Even Pat O'Connor. I remember when YouTube first came into existence, and I have a pretty decent video library of wrestling footage. I have a lot of stuff, but really my stuff doesn't go back any further than the 70s. And I remember when I realized that you can look up wrestling footage and shit on YouTube like 10 years ago. Anytime I would look up matches from like the 50s or 60s, I remember searching Pat O'Connor all the time because I wanted to watch his matches. I love that stuff. I love learning about the history of the business and taking a look back so far back to those days to see, how it all came to be. Big Boss Man was up next. Really happy that Ray Traylor got into the WWE Hall of Fame. I was always a big fan of his. And it's always nice to see Slick. I was such a big fan of him in the 80s, and I'm never going to complain about seeing Slick on WWE TV. However, I just kind of wish it would have been somebody else, like Jim Cornette maybe, or somebody with maybe some NWA ties to Ray Traylor, because they made it seem like all he did was team with Akeem. Big Boss Man did a lot more in his career than just wear that silly-ass prison guard outfit, and it was almost like they were kind of just glossing over the rest of his career when he's had a pretty long and successful one, and a guy that's evolved and had a lot of different gimmicks, and he's got some history in the business that goes way beyond the WWE. So I wish they would have maybe, touched on that a little bit more. And then he had his daughters? Was it all 3 of his daughters, or was one of them his wife? I don't know. But it was probably the most uneventful induction of the night. But still, happy for Ray Traylor. Was always a fan of his. It's sad that he's gone and not with us anymore. I had pretty high hopes for Snoop Dogg's induction as well. I had a feeling he was going to be great and very, very Snoopish the way he always is, and I knew his was going to be really entertaining. They surprised us with an appearance by John Cena. John Cena was the one that they used to induct Snoop Dogg, and he's a pretty good choice. I mean, he's the poster boy of the WWE. Snoop Dogg is a major name in entertainment. It was good to see Cena out there, typical John Cena sucks chants, which is nice that those are never going to go away. Still curious if we're going to see him tonight at WrestleMania. Did a good job inducting Snoop Dogg, and his speech was hilarious. I loved his shout-outs, too. Talked about Andre the Giant, Gorilla Monsoon. Talked about growing up watching Tony Atlas and Rocky Johnson, Dusty Rhodes, Ric Flair, and shouted out all the current and modern-day WWE wrestlers, The Undertaker and DX and Randy Orton and all those guys. So, Snoop was pretty gracious, and he took the thing seriously, which is why I think Snoop is so awesome. Talked about getting high, of course. Talking about getting high with John Cena. How cool was that? One of my bucket list wishes, which I know will never, ever be fulfilled, is to get high with Snoop Dogg one day. Love that he shouted out his cousin Sasha, talked about how he brought her to WrestleMania 24 in Florida a few years back and how she fell in love with everything and dedicated herself to becoming a women's wrestler and has turned out to be a damn good one. And I know I picked Charlotte to retain in my WrestleMania predictions, but, given the fact that Snoop went in and the way he wished her luck tonight at WrestleMania, it makes me think maybe, just maybe, Sasha could have her moment at WrestleMania. But I originally picked Charlotte, so I guess I got to stick with that. I will be 100% honest here, and please don't think I'm an asshole, but it was late at night, and I didn't have time to watch it. I completely skipped over the Joan London induction, didn't watch any of it at all. Dana Warrior, I know, inducted her. So congrats to Joan London. Happy for her, and always wish her the best in her battle with cancer and what she's gone through. But this Warrior Award induction is, is for publicity purposes, and I'm just on the fence on how I feel about it. Last but not least, the headliner, Sting. Pretty much what we would expect out of a Sting induction. Ric Flair told some really good stories. Ric Flair was the perfect guy to induct Sting. It should have been Ric Flair. He was the one that really got Sting on the map with that first world title feud all the way back in 1988. Sting's speech was great. I've always been a fan of his personally. I always thought he was a great guy. The closest thing he got to mentioning TNA was when he was talking about all of the different renditions of Sting we've seen over the years, and he was like, should I mention Joker Sting? Sure, I had a great time doing that. So that was just a little tiny tribute to the fact that he did work elsewhere other than WCW and WWE. And of course, at the very end, after he had to sit there and endure a lot of one more match chants from the fans and a lot of Undertaker chants from the fans, he saves the bombshell for the very end, which we kind of had a feeling was going to happen, and I guess he has officially retired from in-ring competition and made this announcement at the conclusion of his Hall of Fame speech, and there's no better platform to do it on. He's in his 50s. It's time to hang it up. I'm glad he was able to come into the WWE. It sucks that he never won a match there. I mean, that really sucks, but I'm glad he was finally able to get into WWE at the last minute in the nick of time before his career ended and got inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, which is where he belongs. And so for that, I'm happy for him. It was a little bit interesting, though. He said, this is not goodbye, it's just see you later. And he put on the glasses and he had the baseball bat, so maybe, just maybe, he could make an appearance in that Hell in the Cell match. I mean, I doubt it. Why fool the fans? Why tell them you're going to retire in a very serious Hall of Fame speech? I mean, the fans, as soon as he said that, I got to hand it to them, too, because instead of acting like assholes, they immediately stood up. The entire audience rose right to their feet in unison and started clapping for him to show their appreciation for his career. And when I saw that, I was like, phew, thank God, because if they would have shit on it or booed him or said, please, one more match or anything like that, I would have almost been sad for Sting that the fans did that. So the fact that they showed him that much love restores my faith a little bit in how dumb the wrestling fans can be, so maybe they're not so bad all the time. And I highly doubt Sting would swerve us like that, although he did say one thing about Sting is that nothing's for sure, so maybe, we could see him, but I doubt it. I think the retirement is legit. Hopefully he will continue to be a presence on WWE TV and guest appearances and whatnot, so I'm sure it's not the last time we've seen Sting, but it will be the last time we see him in the ring. So with that being said, I'm going to get out of here. Congrats again to the entire 2016 WWE Hall of Fame class. I'm going to get some sleep because we got a big day ahead of us tomorrow, and I will not be leaving my house for the next 48 hours. Happy WrestleMania Sunday to all. I will be up here about 2 to 3 hours after WrestleMania goes off the air with my complete reaction to the pay-per-view and everything we saw, and from what we're hearing rumor-wise, we could see some pretty big things. And I'm wondering, it's starting to sound, by the way, like I mentioned last night in my NXT Dallas review, that Shane McMahon and The Undertaker will in fact close the show. At least that's what they're telling us. So if that's the case, you combine that with a rumor that some crazy big stunt is going to take place at WrestleMania as well. We might be in store for something pretty spectacular tonight at WrestleMania, so I'm intrigued by it. Let's sit back, buckle our seatbelts, and enjoy it together. I will catch you in a few hours. Until then, peace.